I don't say rebel against everything, but you know what? Now, I'm not talking about some little conspiracy theory or something like that. This is something major, and this is something that people need to really get past. We need to get past this point in history, and you wouldn't want to be one of those people within that span of time saying, you know what? Look, we got the transitional form, we got the transitional forms, and then 40 years later, refuted. 50 years later, refuted. 500 doctoral theses, all your doctoral thesis was worth nothing, worth garbage thrown in the recycle bin. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm gonna have to disagree with you on
that. This question isn't about evolution. Could you actually go back to that one slide near the end where you said you're talking about where your creation with a purpose, and then humans criminals get away with that. Yeah. I mean, I understand the right side. For religious people who say, absolute moral principles, and then absolute justice and what they deserve. But I'd like you to elaborate, because personally as an atheist, I understand your argument about man being accident, and I'll just go along with that. But let's say we are an accident. And let's hypothetically say evolution is true. I don't necessarily believe that means that humans have no purpose, because I think just because let's say we were created without a God, right? I think that we can still live productive, meaningful lives. Just I don't necessarily. I want to get your thoughts on how you can kind of say that, just if hypothetically we were created with a God, why that means we have no purpose in life.
Right, that's what I didn't say you don't have a purpose in life. You have a purpose that you define. So I'm not saying that you can't have a meaningful life. I understand exactly what you're saying. And it's true that some people say that if you're atheist, you're a bad person because you have no purpose in life. No, if you define your own purpose in life to be a good one, it's going to be pretty decent, right? But what you're saying basically is that you define that purpose. Nobody else defined it. That makes sense? Yeah. I lost my coordinator. So, did you already ask a question?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you already ask a question? No.
What do you see, or do you see any value in the theory of natural selection, or is there a value in that theory at all?
In the theory of natural selection?
Yeah, the evolutionary theory of natural selection.
In terms of the way Darwin is phrasing, you're saying?
Yeah,
You're saying basically what maybe the question is, you're saying is that if we were to just basically remove this paradigm, are we going to suffer at all in science and things like that? Is that the question?
No, I'm saying as it is there a value to it being there?
In terms of explaining life?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what the value is. The value is very clear, is that you can be an intellectually satisfied atheist. That's what the value is. I don't believe that. I don't believe the theory to be true. That's what I'm saying. But what the value, that's why I say the importance of the theory, it is extremely important. Because if you throw it out, then people have to explain the origin of life somehow, and they have to not only explain it, but they have to give a good explanation. Right, like the story of Imam Abu Hanifa. So that's what I'm saying. The value of it is. Depending on how you define value, the importance of it, is that what you mean by importance? Like the way I define it in terms of, it's extremely important. It has value in the sense that it has a philosophical value. It has a value on the way people are going to think about life, how it shape their worldview. Yeah.
I've heard the term intelligent design a lot. I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah. There's a movement called the intelligent design movement. Basically, what it's saying, it's basically promoting this model, exactly as I said, this creation model. You can call it intelligent design. That's precisely what it's saying. But the difference is, it's not necessarily taking a stance, because there's a lot of. I have my notes here. There's a lot of different terms that are thrown out there. One of them is scientific creationism. So you might think that intelligent design and scientific creationism is the same thing, but in reality it's not. And then some people, there's a lot of these terms that have to do with creation and creationism and scientific creationism and intelligent design. They don't necessarily mean the same thing. So I'm not too familiar with each and every single term. Actually, I have one of the professors actually from UCI here, I have her presentation, she specifically defined all these terms in detail. You should check it out on CD. But intelligent design movement is basically saying that it's promoting that model that I said, is that you take the inference and you say that this design has been made intelligent, everything's been designed according to this model rather than forming by chance, or you could say through natural selection or through natural materialistic mechanisms. So that's basically what intelligent design movement is, and it's quite popular in America, especially in America. And a lot of professors, they're getting onto this movement, and they're saying, you know what, we need to replace the model of evolution in all our high schools and on all our universities, and we need to, because if you replace it, right, you can't just throw it out. You need to replace it with something. So they're saying, let's replace it with intelligent design. And somebody asked me that question, say, what's your solution for it? That's precisely something along those lines of intelligent design.
What I was going to ask is that I've spoken to my teacher, so on and so forth, and we discussed something in class. And he was talking about a book, where the book says that evolution and the concept of evolution is a theory, but when it comes to intelligent design theory, that's not a real scientific theory, due to the fact that anything that you look at, just because it's complex, you can just say it's been designed. There's a design. So I don't understand what he's saying. It doesn't make much sense. But could you kind of give light to that, what he's trying to say?
What he's trying to say.
Yeah.
I'll say exactly what he's trying to say. I hinted to that in the beginning. I thought some atheists would bring it up, but I'll bring it up for you guys instead. Basically, what he's saying is that you're using a false analogy. Remember the microchip in the beginning, the circuit board? So basically what he's saying is that you're using a false analogy, like Paley said his analogy is incorrect. So they're philosophically attacking the analogy. And they're saying that, look, the only reason why you consider a watch, basically what he's saying, you consider a watch to be complex, so you're going to say the same thing about the cell, but he says you can't say that because they're two logically distinct things. The only reason why you believe that a watch is designed is because you know something about the watch previously. You know that watches are designed, you know that from before, but you don't know that about life. You don't know that about nature. You haven't seen the creator. You're not familiar with what's going on. So that's basically what he's saying. So now this is a very important point to make. It's a philosophical point. And what he's saying basically, the problem with what he's saying is that a lot of scientists, they say this, they say you can't make that analogy. But the problem is that he wants us to go beyond being human. And human beings, this is the way we think. What is science? It's what is rational, it's what makes sense. We developed the scientific method because it makes sense to us. We establish this criteria in our own mind, and we have this filter on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So basically, we cannot go beyond being human and stop resorting to these analogies. This is something that's natural. It's a natural analogy within the human mind, and if you want us to go beyond that and say you have to be more objective, you have to go beyond that, that is not something that a human being should ever be asked to be able to do. That's what we are. That's what we are. All we have is what makes sense to us, what's rational to us, what feels the most correct. Trying to be as unbiased as we can. And that's all we can do. That's what he's saying. He says your analogy doesn't work because you have to go beyond that. We can't go beyond that because we're human beings. And that's what science is built.
Because I think what he's trying to say is it's an inference. He's trying to say that it's an inference. But then he's not seeing how the theory of evolution is an inference. So I'm confused. Why would a person with a PhD in biology not be able to see the inference that they're making in evolution? That if you look at something in nature and you look at how complex it is, it's because of natural selection, where some things had competed and the more complex one survived, the more fit one survived. So why is it that they're making this distinction?
Why would he believe something like that? Why would he make this distinction?
Why would he say one's a theory and then one's couldn't be a scientific theory?
Right. Well, the same thing like the Ali Demir's quote at the end. He said it's not appropriate to the goals of science. So if you define the goals of science within a materialistic paradigm, like I said before, Darwin went on the expedition, seeking a naturalistic explanation. Why? Because he had already rejected in his own mind the supernatural explanation. So he needs to go find evidence for the natural one. So once you've already closed your mind to that, you've defined this is the way it's going to be. It's what's called materialism. You've defined that we can't think beyond that. Anything beyond that is not going to be considered scientific.
Basically, there's a bias sometimes.
That's exactly what it is.
We promised to end by 9 o'clock, so there's 3 more minutes. So we'll take one last question in the back, and then after that question, I think Mustafa will still be here for a while.
The pizza comes.
Actually, the pizza's already here. So.